All right, everyone, we got a few brand new Switch stories that dropped that we got to talk about today, starting with the biggest gaming acquisition ever in history in terms of total dollars, and it has to do with a studio that is currently developing a title for the Nintendo Switch. Then I also want to share with you guys the reason that Mario Kart Tour is in the news today and why it just received a brand new update with a new track, and I want to discuss whether or not we can expect any further updates for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe before we see something like a new Mario Kart 9 drop. And the big talking point for today's video is really some confirmation around the lack of updates for Nintendo 64 games on Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, as it does appear at this point in time, one game per month is what we can expect going forward, and I want to talk about what this means for the future of the service as a whole. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, we're covering a few different stories today, and I want to kick it off with a really exciting one that just popped up, and it's around the biggest acquisition ever in gaming history, as Take-Two Interactive is set to acquire Zynga Games, and you may recognize the name Zynga as they are currently developing a title by the name of Star Wars Hunters on both mobile platforms and the Nintendo Switch, and they are historically known for mobile games primarily. That is where they make all of their revenue, and I believe this is actually their first console edition that they are porting to the Nintendo Switch when it comes to Star Wars Hunters. But I do want to cover this today and actually get you guys on the same page with all the information that's out there, because it's a rather large acquisition, and I think it brings up an interesting talking point about the revenue that is behind mobile games and this kind of like pay to play or pay to progress faster rather strategy, and why it's working so well for the masses, and really what this acquisition could mean for future Nintendo Switch titles as well. So let's quickly start off this conversation by hopping over to VGC, where they have all the details of the exact acquisition and what's going down on their website. So let's read through that together. Take-Two announces acquisition of mobile games giant Zynga for $12.7 billion. The Grand Theft Auto parent says the deal will establish it as one of the largest mobile game publishers. Grand Theft Auto parent Take-Two has announced its intention to acquire mobile games giant Zynga in a deal worth $12.7 billion, the biggest ever in the games industry. The deal will see the combination of Take-Two's blockbuster console and PC franchises, including GTA, Borderlands, NBA 2K, and BioShock, with Zynga's hugely popular social gaming brands, including Farmville and Words with Friends. In a statement, Take-Two said the acquisition would establish it as one of the largest and most diversified mobile game publishers in the industry. Zynga has more than 183 million monthly active users playing its mobile games. The company said Zynga's expertise could help it drive free-to-play and cross-platform ambitions and help it bring Take-Two's console/PC properties to mobile and add new game modes. Following the acquisition, Frank Gibeau, I think that's how you say it, will continue to serve as chairman and CEO of Zynga, while the management team of Take-Two will lead the combined company. Zynga will oversee Take-Two's own mobile efforts going forward, including the T2 mobile games business, which will operate under the Zynga brand as its own label within the company. Take-Two's existing mobile offerings include Dragon City, Monster Legends, Top 11, Two Dots, and WWE Supercard. The Zynga deal represents the biggest acquisition ever in the games industry, eclipsing Tencent's investment in Supercell $8.6 billion and Microsoft's buyout of Bethesda for $8.1 billion. So I think personally with this acquisition, there's a couple different interesting talking points, one of which being just how mobile has exploded on the market and how much revenue it's really driving, because when I think of giant game developers, I don't always think of mobile first, but this being the biggest dollar deal done in the gaming industry ever in terms of acquisition cost is pretty notable. At over $12 billion is what they're going to end up paying for Zynga to go ahead and join their direct team at Take-Two Interactive. And I think it also says a lot about where these gaming giants see the industry going moving forward, as obviously we do have mobile versions of Grand Theft Auto that are already out there and available for download, and of course they actually sadly run better than the Trilogy edition that we saw ported here most recently to the current gen platforms, and especially the Nintendo Switch version of that game definitely sees a large number of bugs and glitches, but really it was just a rush job, and we've talked about that multiple times on the channel, so I won't deep dive back into that can of worms. but I will be interested to see how Take-Two actually utilizes Zynga going forward, and whether or not they bring more of these mobile experiences that you find on smartphones today to something like the Nintendo Switch console, or even just other home consoles, or if it changes the way that they entice new users to play their games for the first time, because clearly a free-to-play model is absolutely working, whether you like those type of experiences or not. For the masses, people getting a game for free to be able to play, and they kind of get hooked, and the next thing they find themselves spending money for skins and upgrades and faster experience and things along the way. Like, that model, while I am not the biggest fan of it personally, absolutely you cannot deny does not just drive a significant amount of revenue for gaming going forward. So I think this one's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. I don't think this will necessarily affect Star Wars Hunters so much, as that's already set for 2022 release, and this will be definitely, with the size of the merger, one that takes a long time to fully integrate these companies. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below what you think about this news, with it being the biggest acquisition in gaming history, what you personally feel about mobile games, because I'm definitely not the biggest fan. There's not a ton of them that can keep me enticed to play. Pokemon Unite and some other ones have come, Pokemon Go especially, have come along, and I'll check them out and I'll play them for a while. And we're actually going to talk about another mobile game by the name of Mario Kart Tour here in a second. But you know, I don't play the biggest on mobile, and I do think that as time goes on, it will maybe evolve and be a better experience when we all have, you know, really easy wireless controllers to sync up and use on something like a tablet. I could see myself gaming on a little bit more. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below your personal opinions on mobile games, and whether or not you think this Zynga deal will lead to any new interesting projects. So please share all your thoughts and feelings on this biggest gaming acquisition ever in the comments down below. Now, the next story we're talking about today has to do with Mario Kart Tour, which of course is the mobile version of Mario Kart, and you can download it for free on your mobile devices such as Android and iOS devices. And it's in the news today because it got a brand new track update with a new trailer as well. And I want to briefly cover it with you all and kind of show you some of my first impressions, because I do think that this game is actually very quality. While if you watch the previous story we just talked about, I'm not that big of a mobile gamer at all in terms of just gaming on my phone or even my tablet. I rarely do it, but I do think that the quality of Mario Kart Tour is pretty notable, and it just makes me at the end of the day want to see Nintendo continue to support Nintendo Switch titles like they are with Mario Kart Tour, because if you've been around on the channel for a while, you will know that I've been eagerly and patiently awaiting a Mario Kart 9 or a new installment of some sort for years and years, because I bought Mario Kart 8, the original, on the Wii U when it was released in 2014. And I just think that we should absolutely see maybe at least one more DLC pack, just throw it in as part of the NSO expansion pack, which we'll also be talking about later in the video, to add some more value to that service, and maybe just give us another 3 to 5 tracks on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe while we are waiting for something like the new Mario Kart that of course has been making the rounds in news recently. As you know, there's a lot of reason to believe that Nintendo is actively developing that game, and from an industry analyst, it sounds like there's of course going to be some kind of new twist mechanic for this, which has a lot of fans talking about whether or not it's the first Smash Bros level roster brought to a Mario Kart for the first time, or if it's just a interesting gameplay mechanic, kind of like we saw them do with Double Dash when they added in that whole double player element. So regardless of what all of that is, I do like to see these free updates continue to come out for Mario Kart Tour for players that do play that game a lot, and the tracks and the quality of everything are all super top notch in my personal opinion. And I just want to see Nintendo bring more updates to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe before we sail off into the sunset, or ride off into the sunset rather, and watch that game, you know, kind of phase out, as it's still topping UK sales charts like week in and week out. Like literally every week this is still the top selling game. So it's definitely Nintendo's biggest franchise. It's kind of crazy to me that it's been so long since we've gotten any kind of new content for it. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below what your personal wish list is for Mario Kart 9 in terms of gameplay mechanics, and maybe even your dream roster for it. Like, do you want to see them go the Smash Bros route for this? And then definitely share with me whether or not you play Mario Kart Tour, and if you're going to be checking out this new update, and if you personally think that we will maybe get one more DLC pack for something like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe before we see the final implementation of Mario Kart 9. So please share with me all your thoughts and feelings on all things Mario Kart in the comments down below. Now, the last story we're talking about today is one we've covered a number of different times here on the channel, as if you know anything about me, you know that my hype level was at an all-time high when Nintendo unveiled their expansion pack service for Nintendo Switch Online, as I grew up in the N64 era and loved every single minute of that console. And I was very excited to get my hands on, of course, the initial offerings that Nintendo was launching the service with. And while I thought the price they were asking for it was too high, I went ahead and bit the bullet and paid for the 1-year membership regardless. I still wanted to go back down memory lane and replay those games. Of course, along the way, we saw a lot of performance issues start to pop up, most notably with Ocarina of Time on things like lack of textures and fogs rendering correctly in certain places, and then also some noticeable input delay, especially if you're somebody who has grown up playing those games multiple times over like I am. I know some people say they don't notice the input delay. I definitely do, and it still hasn't been fixed. All of that said, I've been somewhat hopeful that maybe the way Nintendo could justify this service and the asking price that they are asking for it at the end of the day is by updating the games frequently enough to make it justifiable, such as 2 to 3 N64 games per month, and then maybe we get 4 to 5 Sega Genesis games per month, and maybe we even see them add in things like Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance library of systems over the course of time. And the reason it's bad news in my opinion today that we're talking about this is I was very hopeful that when we got the announcement from Nintendo back on December 2nd of 2021 that Paper Mario would be the first new title added into NSO service, and then that kind of had a quick conversation in everybody's head going around of, oh, is this only 1 game per month? Is that all we're getting? Well, then just shortly after, on December 10th, Nintendo tweeted out a surprise drop that Banjo and Kazooie would actually be coming in January. And in the back of my head, I was like, maybe, just maybe, we will see Banjo and Kazooie release at the beginning part of January and not have to worry about only 1 game per month, and maybe Nintendo gives us a tweet for something else in the back half of January. And so ultimately at least 2 is significantly better than 1 new N64 game being added to the service per month. And I think I can safely say at this point, being 10 days into January and having no Banjo and Kazooie communication or new trailer whatsoever for this game, that we are confidently can say at this point in time that Nintendo, at least for right now, is planning to update the service with 1 new N64 title per month and even release the games in somewhat broken states. As you guys may remember, we also made a video on Paper Mario 64 potentially having an issue where the game can crash and erase your entire save file. Then there's also some interesting emulation tactics and boss fights that cause you to potentially miss frames because they actually cap the frame rate when they don't need to. They had it figured out in the Japanese version, and I don't know what the reason for leaving it in the US version was, but it definitely hinders the gameplay experience. And I think this is one of those things that, as a long-term hardcore Nintendo fan, they just need to be called out sometimes when they are clearly dropping the ball and clearly doing something that's quite honestly just a cash grab at the end of the day. Because if you've been here before, you do know that I feel very strongly about the fact that this NSO expansion pack has no monthly option, meaning you cannot dip your toe in the water and see what you're going to get for 1 month and then choose to stay a subscriber or not. You are forced to pay the entire membership up front for the first year. Maybe we see Nintendo change that in the future, but regardless, with how they launched the service, it feels like they knew they didn't have much to offer. They wouldn't continue to update the service that frequently, and they wanted to get all of the fans that wanted to sign up for this day one roped in for the entire year, and we've already given them their money, so they have really no obligation on their end to give us any kind of communication. And that's the biggest issue at the core of it all, is when they decide to do updates, they just drop them, they're live, but there's zero communication if we're ever going to get more updates like that. We don't know if we're going to get more Sega Genesis games anytime soon. They just shadow dropped a tweet that went out that say, hey, 5 new Sega Genesis games are available on Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack back in December 16th, if I'm not mistaken. And it's like, that's just so random for a consumer that's already paid you money for an active subscription service for a full year, and there's zero communication and zero roadmap on where we're headed with this thing. And then the games that you do release have game-breaking bugs and glitches. Like, I'm pretty much done with the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack in terms of my expectations expectations being very high for the service. I will wait for Nintendo to prove me wrong and hopefully build this out over time, as if you look at the library of games that they have and what they really do have to offer in terms of the IPs that they own, they could easily make this the Disney Plus for them and add in GameCube and Wii games in the future. Probably not even talking about anything like that until the Switch 2, but they could, if they wanted to, really add that library that all of us fans would probably happily pay $9.99 a month for if they really did it right. So I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below what you think about one Nintendo 64 game most likely being the update schedule per month going forward, how you feel if you have bought the service. If you haven't bought the service, share with me what's holding you back on it. I'm pretty sure I probably have a couple ideas and guesses on why you haven't bought it yet, but I do want to hear from you on either side of the fence that you fall on. Even if you're super happy with the service and, you know, for your money, for $50 for the annual price, you think it's more than worth it what Nintendo is offering, share with me your opinion as well. I definitely don't see it like that, but I can see why nostalgia sometimes can justify very high price points. So I want to hear from you guys on all things NSO and all the stories we talked about today in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. I do truly appreciate you all sticking around until the end. I do at this point in the video want to invite you all one more time to join Sunbro Nation if you haven't done so already. Do so by subscribing below, hit the like button on your way out if you enjoyed it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. That's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you all have a great day. Sunbro Nation, out.